severe economic crisis in modern history, the crisis in Venezuela. Our focus will be on inflation and employment based on the article Inflation and Employment in Venezuela, and empirical the investigation of the Phillips curve hypothesis. To help us understand this issue, we have three guests with us today. Let's begin by understanding the background of Venezuela economic crisis. Thank you
promote sustainable growth, job creation,